I should be drawing. I should be up on that hill, charcoal in fist, framing the view in my eye, in my mind, again. I should be marking out the composition in fast, smooth chops, the wind flicking the paper where it hasn't been bull-clipped. I should be narrowing my eyes. I should be blocking out the negative space between her house and the forest, wherever it is, and the mountain and the sky, my hand moving quickly, my eye blank and unjudging, getting it right before it starts to shift. I should be seeing. Seeing is what I should be doing. What I should have been doing all along, really. The trick is to see the view as it is, not as you know it should be. That's the trick. But I'm not drawing. I'm not on the hill. I can't see the sexy curve of the river or Carrie's glass pyramid. I'm not doing anything at all. I'm moving, yeah. Well, I'm being moved, but it's happening to me. The Tay is doing all the work. From the hill, behind my mother's back garden, you can see 3 houses, scattered unevenly across the valley. The big place on the far side of the river directly across from us, a big glass pyramid kind of thing, is where Carrie and the fat footballer live, and the other 2 are on our side, holiday homes. You catch a glimpse of the road sometimes if the forest is behaving, and that's it. Nothing to see but fields, hills, river and sky. The houses actually make it feel more remote somehow. Of the 4 properties in the valley, my mum's house stands out, which is funny because the others are millionaire new builds designed no doubt by architects in thick framed glasses and shapeless linen dresses to be sympathetically unique within the landscape. Mum's cottage is actually unique within the landscape because it looks shit. It's more bungalow than cottage, built in the 70s. It's cold and cramped and damp and mean. And it would be bad enough being here, just waking up here every day in this freezing hovel with condensation on the window and the stink of booze and fried eggs on my skin without all the other stuff. Chandler, Carrie and the fat footballer. The forest. I think the forest is the worst of all. Because the rest is just the world doing its thing. Failure, humiliation, longing, all the hits. But the forest is supernatural. Sorry, that's not the right word. I don't mean supernatural. I think when you're talking about forests, the correct term is enchanted. The plan was, I'd come up here, sort out Mum's stuff, get the cottage ready for sale, do a bit of sketching and return to London in a few weeks. My old teenage bedroom, saying goodbye to the past, out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it all had the makings of something I'd be spinning to a journalist in years to come. Probably I'd be saying that it was, in a very real sense, cathartic. I suppose now, looking back, yeah, people might think I was blocked, actually, for almost a decade. And although to the onlooker it might appear like I was kind of off the scene, more of a workshop leader than an artist, I knew that what I was really doing was preparing, underneath, for this. Those weeks in the cottage by the Tay, after the funeral, were all it took to open me up, you know? The landscape was redemptive, it was uplifting, and in a very real sense, cathartic. But there was no catharsis. There was a good deal of sitting in my boxer shorts in a horrible too-high old person's armchair, drinking wine all day and watching Disney movies on VHS. A lot of that, actually. More than I would happily recommend. There are only so many fairy tale endings a person can stand, man. But catharsis was not on the cards. Plenty of weeping, though. Tons of it. Not for anything specific, just like basic weeping. Whatever energy I had left from the tears and the Disney was taken up with hating Chandler. Chandler is my mum's cockatoo and he's a fucking lunatic. I mean, like, he's literally insane. About 20 years ago, Chandler started to eat his own feathers, so he's bald from the neck down, naked. is a better word. He's like a tiny roast chicken, but a tiny roast chicken that's decided to go to the Notting Hill Carnival dressed as a cockatoo. It's the freakiest thing, man. Every time I look at him, I get a lurch of dread. He eyeballs me morning to night, judging me. Apparently he speaks, but I've never heard him. I don't know if I'd like him more if he spoke or not. I doubt it, because I genuinely dislike the little prick on quite a deep level. I'm stuck with him, though. You can't set him free because he's featherless, earthbound, and actually, I think if given the option, the little moron would probably choose the cage. I opened the door once to see if he would bolt, but no, he hopped backwards. He stinks, too. Mind you, I haven't been the freshest either these last few months. The first time Carrie Simon came by, I could tell that she could smell me. It was a good motivation, actually, to get it all together, to wash, get the sketch pad out, get myself up on the hill. Because I loved Carrie at school, you see. It was genuine love, even though we barely spoke. I can remember absolutely everything about her. The bounce in her step as she and her pals flowed past me on the current of the corridor, all those navy blue culottes she wore that showed the perfect curve of her hip. I would swoon a bit when she sailed past me. She was so vivid. Even then. I was new to the school. Like everyone who runs away hoping never to be found, Mum had run north. Dad was never going to chase us in the first place, but here we were, hidden in among the mountains and the knitwear shops. Me, Mum, and Chandler. I came to the school in third year and didn't make a single friend, but still. I loved Carrie Simon. I wish I could find one of the poems I wrote for her. I threw them all away, of course, unsent, unread, unsaid. But God, I'd love to see one. It would be like finding a fossil or something. A fossil is the hardened shape left in the earth when something living has faded away. It's proof that something existed. Like a dissolution of marriage certificate or a letter terminating employment. I didn't even know she lived in the big glass pyramid, but yeah. Up she pulled one morning in a massive black SUV. She'd seen some lights on and was checking everything was okay. She knew Mum had died and that her son lived in London, and she was very pleasant indeed, like a proper grown-up lady. I did think that probably in reality she'd heard me screaming the night before. Isn't there something about sound travelling further across water or something? But I kept a civilised face. Or as civilised as a man can be whilst wearing boxer shorts and his dead mum's dressing gown. She didn't remember me. Of course not. In the last few years at school I was a punk. I had a one-man retro movement on the go. Piercings and mohawk and eyes on the deck, trying hard to look ugly enough to be second-guessed. But I knew her. I knew her from the way her hair flows down her neck, tucked behind her ear with a natural flick. She had an expensive leather jacket on, tight jeans and high heels. When she got back in the car, she took her heels off to drive. I saw that her toenails were painted and the marks the straps had made on her ankles. I nearly passed out. Right there in the debris of my mum's muddy yard next to the old freezer and the Honda Jazz with no engine. She waved as she pulled away. But there's no denying it, man. She definitely winced at the sight of me and the smell of me. That hurt, you know? Quite a similar pain to when Kaya said she didn't care, or when the guy from the alcohol dependency unit laughed in my face. A pain in the gum, not the tooth. You know what I mean? So that was it. Bin bags out, pledge, Frying pan scraped of incinerated egg. Chandler got sprayed in the face with the last of the Glade and his shitty little cage got emptied. Shower, clothes washed, and then, hardest of all, got the sketch pad and charcoals out of the rucksack and hit the hill. Do some work. For the first time in too long, man. Draw. Draw. Not for my career or my soul or any of that shit. But for her. For Carrie. I'd do a picture of her house and drop it in. It would be the beginning of something. It would be proof. Carrie married a footballer. Apparently he was so-so in his day, but now that he slags off folk on BT Sport, he's a household name. I saw him zoom past in the SUV when I was walking back from the village with the wine once, and he was fat, stuffed right up tight against the wheel. I was a bit pissed and shouted, "You're not even a hero, man!" The brake lights flicked and I shat it, ducked behind a tree, but he didn't stop. I have this, daydream about me saving Carrie from the river, being a hero. It's daft, but I think about it all the time. I'd see her fall in and I'd run down the hill, dive into the water and pull her back to her bank. She'd be barely alive, her clothes all stuck to her skin and her breathing just shallow gasps. Then she wakes, her big, dark eyes looking right at me. And I'd carry her into the pyramid and the fat footballer would be all weeping and grateful. I'd lay her down on her white leather couch and be all like, "Oh, it was nothing really." And he'd be like, "No, man, you're a hero." And he'd give me money and he'd buy my paintings and in the end we'd be friends. Down the years, Carrie and I would sometimes make eye contact over dinner and there would be a secret little spark. But we'd never act on it. Never. But wait a minute, why not? Why don't we do anything? It's a fantasy. In fact, it's my fantasy. I should be able to choose to... Okay, sometimes I try. She'd be naked in the river every now and then, and I'd see her painted toenails and the marks of the straps as she lay on the white leather couch, but... Nah, it wasn't the same. The hero story's better. In fact, I was thinking about the hero story when I first noticed it, actually. The forest. This was my third day up on the hill sketching, and I was sober this time. Well, soberer. So I knew it wasn't my mistake. The forest had definitely moved. Landscape has never been my thing. At college I was figurative. Anatomy got me going. Not in a sex way, in a mathematical way. If you understand anatomy, if you know what's really happening underneath the surface of the skin, then you can capture anything just by doing the sums. This, doing that, plus this, equals that. But then, I don't know. Most of the others got into more conceptual stuff, video pieces, performance, and I kind of got swept along even though it was largely a mystery. Landscapes didn't feature. At all. Ever. That was for those watercolour hacks selling prints in tea rooms. But on the first day of drawing Carrie's pyramid, I was really getting into it. Obviously her house was the focus, then the mountain, the bend in the Tay and the dark forest on the far right. I was getting so excited just making marks on paper again that I had to go down to the house to get a bottle. Then another, and another, and that was it. I overdrew. I got sloppy and vague. I wanted to express rather than document. Then I started to hear my old theme song playing in my head. Not very good, not very good. And that was it. I can't remember how the day even ended. Next time, I was all discipline. Negative space, areas of darkest shade, proportionality. But something was wrong, bugging me, man. It took me ages to spot it. Looking at my sketch, I realised that I'd put the forest on the other side. the wrong side. In my picture, it was top right of the pyramid, but in real life, it was top left. It didn't make any sense. I went down to the bins and fished out the ripped up pages from yesterday, and they were the same. The forest was in the wrong place. Twice. But how? How could it be possible that I'd got something so obvious, something so entirely natural, something everyone else can see just by looking? How had I got that so completely wrong? But on day 3, I worked it out. This time when I started to draw, the forest was to the right of Carrie's house and in the top right-hand corner of the page. I made sure of that. I said it out loud. But when I was nearly done, when I was starting to see the true picture appear with all its snags and personality traits, the forest had moved. In the real world. It was literally in a different place than it used to be. Now it was directly behind Carrie's pyramid. In fact, it was towering over her house, all dark and sharp and brambly. I'd stayed put. But the world had rearranged. That's not normal, man. Conclusion? The forest is enchanted and trying to swallow up Carrie's pyramid. I wasn't scared. In fact, I was pretty happy. Because it's good to have a mission. Doing a picture for Carrie was still a plan. Yeah, of course it was, and that would be lovely. But disappearing into an enchanted forest to somehow stop it engulfing her house definitely had more of a hero story vibe to it. The forest would take me, not her. I'd disappear, and she'd just keep going. However, by the time I'd processed all that, I'd finished the wine, so that was a worry. All that was left was Mum's amaretto, which normally I can't stand, but now that I'm a hero, I'll struggle on. I made sure to eat, too. Very important, that. I had my 3 fried eggs, a cheeky amaretto sharpener, and I was off on my quest. I followed the track through the big field and down to the river. I was directly across the Tay from Carrie's pyramid. I thought I could maybe wade it, but actually it's much deeper than you'd think. And wide. And fast. There were 2 bridges. A road bridge to the left about a mile down, and the old bridge much further away up to the right. Where to go? It all depends on where the enchanted forest happens to be today, which is where? No idea. Brainwave. I'll climb a tree and check it out. Fix a, vector or whatever. But it's hard, man. The wine and the amaretto are pulling me down like gravity, and my hands are all spongy and weak, and I fall, smashing my arm on a stone. I cry out and lie there for ages and ages, staring up at the clouds. I want to close my eyes a bit. Sleep. Just fade away. But then I remembered the enchanted forest and being a hero and disappearing and all that shit, so I pull myself up and try again. This time I get about 6 feet off the ground and I stand on a branch and look around, but what the... No forest. At all. Not to the left, not to the right, not crowding towards the pyramid, nothing. It was gone. Gone before I even had the chance to disappear into it. I can't even disappear, man. I can't even... The magical stuff, the mystery, the beauty stuff, it's always been just out of my sight. I'm figurative. I'm basic. Even those guys I was at college with, Davey, Georgia, even Kaya, they seemed to see it. Even though they were kids, they could see that something was there, something much more, something weirder and darker and more beautiful was just out of reach, and that's why they... I want an enchanted forest. Please, please give me. Let me feel it. Just once. I want that forest. Don't leave me here. Please. Please, please. And I'm crying. until I stop crying. I shift position so I can look back up the hill toward Mum's house. I'm looking at it for a while, just watching it, wondering how it could be possible that I was young within those walls. Or young at all. I feel so sad for that boy I could cry again. What's crowding towards him isn't a tragedy. It's just not very good. Not as good as all the others. Not as good as he deserves. An enchanted forest is under a spell, right? It's been cursed. And then someone comes along and breaks the curse. But maybe it's not the forest that's cursed at all. Maybe it's Mum's house. So who cursed it? And who's going to break the spell? I'm thinking about all that stuff when I noticed that Mum's house was on fire. By the time I get back up the hill, the smoke is thick and the windows are chucking black out into the sky. I go into the backyard. There's a tap, I think, a hose or something, but the smoke and the heat and the noise stop me with an invisible slap. I'm not even confused. I know it was the frying pan. The eggs. Hot oil left on the ring again. It's a certainty. It was me that did it. It was always me. Then I hear her, calling, screaming from inside the flames. It's Mum. Mum. She's calling out from the middle of the fire. Beautiful boy! Beautiful boy! Beautiful boy! Mum? Mum, I made it! I'm here now! I'm here now, Mum! Then there's another sound, a high animal shriek. And of course, yeah. Of course. It's not Mum. It can't be Mum. Mum died in a hospital bed all alone. It's Chandler. The poor little bastard is using her voice as some kind of last resort. I laugh. Shouldn't. But picturing him naked in the cage as the bars start to glow, screaming in my mother's voice, I don't know, it made me laugh. You'll be happier, Chandler, pal, trust me. You'll be flying again when the cage melts. Beautiful boy, beautiful boy, beautiful boy. Then I'm clattered, a hard man shove right in my back, pushing me over face down in the mud. He's standing over me in a black suit stretched tight across his big belly. The door of the SUV is open and singing a tiny ding, ding, ding song. I didn't even hear it pull up. The fat footballer is raging, screaming at me. What the fuck's wrong with you? She's in there, listen, she's calling for help, and you're laughing, you fucking... And then he's gone. I don't have time to speak. He's pulled his suit jacket up over his head and he's running into the smoke. The instant he goes through the door, the roof caves. It's as if the house was waiting on him to arrive before it made its final move. There's a crunch and a whoosh and a warm, gritty air patters on my face, but no screaming or anything. Nothing from Chandler either. Just a general roar that's part inside, part out. And I'm running down the hill towards the river, towards Carrie. I've got to be the one to tell her. The hill is doing all the sprinting for me, pulling my feet forward in a drum roll blur, and I remember this feeling from when I was a kid. I'm giddy with the unconscious speed of it. It's like falling. I'm laughing again, young again. And I keep running when I hit the river. I slosh right up to my waist in 3 strides and I gasp at the sudden chill. God, it's like a punch. But I wade on deeper. Got to get across to the pyramid. Get Carrie Simon. Got to finish the hero story. The stones drop away from under my feet and I'm swimming now, pulling myself ahead in the current, a kick and a swipe, and clothes doubling in weight, and it's in my mouth. And another kick. The pyramid is lit from within with warm house lamps, and I can see her. Carrie Simon. She's out on the deck, and, oh man, the radiance. The glow of a soft, good life, a life of enchanted things and curses that will always break. It hovers around her like a colour. I go under again and fight to... I break the surface, but I'm heavy and I'm basic and I'm gasping and... under. And it's brown and cold and in my nose and in my blood. My legs are rigid branches and agony and kicking against me. Elbow can't bend from where it cracked on the fall. Surface up and gulp. She can't see me. She's got her phone to her ear and she's pointing up to Mum's house. I try and shout her name, but I can't. I can't remember those things now. I can't remember how those things work now. Words, names, feelings, memories. I can't remember how rivers and forests work, or people and mothers and wives and careers and Disney and punk and poems and sketching. I'm just making a noise now with my throat open because my throat wants to be open and say, beautiful boy! Beautiful boy! Beautiful boy! And she hears me. She sees me. She drops the phone and scrambles down onto the bank. But I'm nowhere near her now. I've been pulled away, down, down, down and away. She's looking in the wrong place. I should be fighting to stay alive. I should be swimming towards her. I should be in London with Kaya making things right. I should be with my mother as she slips away. I should be talking to Carrie in the corridor. I should be drawing. I should be up on that hill, charcoal in fist, framing the view in my eye, in my mind, again, again. I should be seeing. Seeing is what I should be doing. What I should have been doing all along, really. The trick is to see the view as it is, not as you know it should be. That's the trick. But I can't do it. I've never really been able to do it. And now I'm not doing anything at all. I'm moving, yeah, well, I'm being moved. But it's happening to me. The Tay is doing all the work. The Tay is taking me fast towards the forest, which is now clearly right here.